the first case was diagnosed in the Montana legislature. Plus,
we are currently in the process of working through a system to begin expanding vaccine distributions.
You submitted questions about the COVID-19 vaccination plan, and we looked to the governor for answers.
From Montana's news leader, this is MTN News at 5.
Good afternoon and welcome to the News at 5. I'm Marian Davidson. Thanks for joining us. Well, in the wake of the first Montana legislator announcing he tested positive for COVID-19, legislative leaders met today to discuss health guidelines and how the session will react. But the 8-person panel did not come to a final agreement, and minority Democrats said they are still waiting for Republicans to come up with an actual plan. GOP leaders announced yesterday evening that Republican State Representative David Beatty of Hamilton has tested positive for COVID-19. They said he is asymptomatic and that he did not get infected in Helena. They also said they have contacted those who may have had contact with Beatty this week at the Capitol and asked them to work remotely for now. But at a meeting of top leaders this morning, minority Democrats said there is still no overall plan or for how to react to infections or for health protocols during the session for the public or lawmakers. Republican leaders say they have taken some steps, such as creating the panel, which met for the first time today, and recommended masks and social distancing. But House Democrat leader Kim Abbott said a concrete plan is needed now, prompting Republican Senator Jason Ellsworth to respond.
We have wanted to see a clear plan with clear expectations for everyone that does business in this building, for our local community and for our local economy, and we haven't had it. I'm hoping that we come up with it today.
We're all here for a common cause, so we can have disagreements. At the end of the day, it's about coming together and finding common ground for the people of Montana, for our legislators, and for our staff. So I just want to keep us on that track, as I'm sure you do too.
The panel agreed to talk over the weekend and meet again next Tuesday to discuss possible further plans. And a bill designed to protect businesses from COVID-19 related liability had its first hearing this morning at the state legislature. It has the support of Republican Governor Greg Gianforte and is part of his proposed new approach to slowing the spread of COVID-19 in Montana. The bill says if people or businesses follow government health guidelines, they will not be liable for damages related to COVID-19. Governor Gianforte said Friday the bill incentivizes business owners to take personal responsibility and promote actions that protect public health. The idea is that businesses would take those public health precautions to shield themselves from liability. The head of the Montana trial lawyers said the change is not needed and really does nothing to protect public health, yet a long list of business lobbyists, including the Chamber of Commerce, supported the bill today.
Much like it has been for almost all of us, COVID-19 has been a minefield of uncertainty for businesses. And we believe that Senate Bill 65 is a needed metal detector for said minefield, a way for responsible business owners to re-engage their communities without the threat of being sued in their pursuit to survive.
This bill just provides unnecessary immunity restricting or denying the rights of injured Montanans. And it does absolutely nothing to improve the health and safety of our communities.
Liability protections are one of two things the governor wants to see before lifting the statewide mask mandate. The other is increased vaccine distribution to Montana's most vulnerable populations. All right, now it's time for a look at the forecast and possibly what our weekends will look like with Chief Meteorologist Kurt Krebinitz.
I'll get into the weekend, I think, just for you, though. Here's a look at what it looked like up on top of Great Divide earlier today. Louis Citraro grabbing that picture. How many of you woke up to some fog earlier this morning? Well, a lot of that fog was in the lower levels of the atmosphere. You call it an undercast when you're above the overcast. There you can see the humidity value still really high, 96%. Cup Bank, Havre, Bozeman at 96%. Helena, the fog is burned off, but it will likely come back here tonight. Dense fog right now around Cup Bank, hardly any visibility. Same goes with the Bozeman area. Havre, we've gone from 0 visibility to up to 10 miles visibility here just in about the last hour or so. In the fog, some of us will be again here tonight. The block is back. The blocking high pressure that has kind of kept a lot of Montana mild and dry for most of this winter so far. Well, it's back at least this weekend. And a countdown to cold. Yes, changes are coming. I'll have more on that, plus the weekend coming up.
Now looking at the state's COVID-19 situation, Montana COVID-19 case numbers continue to rise. 745 more cases were reported since last night, and that brings the number of active cases in the state to just over 5,000. The statewide death total is now 1,052. That's after 10 more deaths were reported since last night. Active hospitalizations have dropped since yesterday and are just over 200. MTN uses a combination of state and local data to provide you with the most up-to-date numbers regarding COVID-19 in our state. And because of that, our numbers may differ from the state report. Well, new tonight at 5, we asked you to send us your questions about Montana's COVID-19 vaccination plan, and you have, although some of you are still waiting on answers. MTN's Matt Holzaffel explains why.
We've received a lot of great questions about the state's COVID-19 vaccination plan, specifically along the lines of, this is my age, these are my health conditions, when can I get the vaccine? But it's not that easy to answer some of these questions because the vaccine timeline in Montana is not the same as it originally was in November or even last week.
We are currently in the process of working through a system to begin expanding vaccine distribution specifically to the following groups. All Montanans of 70 years of age or older, and Montanans age 16 to 69 that have specific underlying health conditions that make them more vulnerable.
Let's look at the changes the state's vaccination plan has undergone. The first draft of the plan sorted initial distribution of the vaccine into 4 phases: critical infrastructure workers, people at increased risk for severe COVID-19 illnesses such as long-term care facility residents, people 65 and older, and anyone with underlying health conditions, then people with increased risk of transmitting the virus and people with limited access to vaccines. In late December, Governor Bullock announced the distribution plan had changed, and so had the timeline. Frontline healthcare workers and long-term care facilities were in Phase 1A, people 75 and older were in Phase 1B, and people 65 plus or with underlying health conditions fell into Phase 1C. That was less than a month ago, and now the plan has been changed again.
I have tasked DPHHS and General Quinn to begin the process of revising the vaccine distribution plan to prioritize the most vulnerable in our communities.
While Phase 1A remains unchanged, Phase 1B now includes anyone 70 or older instead of 75, and anyone with a high-risk medical condition. Phase 1C includes other frontline essential workers, anyone over the age of 60, and people with a, quote, elevated risk of COVID-19 complications.
We've asked the Montana DPHHS a number of other questions that you've sent in as well, but we're still waiting to hear back as the state continues to adapt and change the vaccination plan based on guidance from officials and vaccine availability. In Great Falls, Matt Holzaffel, MTN News.
An advisory committee for the CDC says when doses of the vaccine are limited, healthcare personnel and long-term care facility residents should get it in the first phase, 1A. Then they say frontline essential workers and anyone 75 or older should be next. The next round of PPP loans for businesses impacted by the pandemic will be available Monday, and one organization is helping people get ready to apply. There are specific documents required and calculations that can be done ahead of time to make the process easier. The Great Falls Development Authority is ready to take questions and can walk people through the process. Now, during the first round of the loan last year, the Development Authority was able to get millions of dollars for people by helping them apply through a bank or credit union. And for this round, up to $284 billion are available nationwide.
We're getting the list together of the banks and credit unions that are doing this round. If you're struggling with that, we also are eligible, Great Falls Development Authority is eligible as a PPP lender.
The deadline to apply for a loan during the second round is March 31st. And many families faced complicated financial situations in 2020, and that is creating more uncertainty headed into tax season. Join us tonight at 6:30 as we dive into preparing for taxes in a pandemic on Facebook Live. We will look at what you need to claim, things you can deduct, and get you ready to file your taxes. Again, that is coming up at 6:30 on the KTVH Facebook page. And today, Benefice Health System announced that they purchased the old IHOP building in Helena and will convert it to an urgent care clinic. Benefice is also building a clinic at Capitol Hill Town Center, and that project is still in the design phase. Benefice will hire new Helena staff to operate the urgent care facility and offer outreach from specialists that will travel from Great Falls. Renovating an existing building like this is quicker than constructing a new one. Benefice hopes the new urgent care clinic will be done with staff in place and doors open for patients before the end of the summer.
This IHOP building, as we evaluated it, it truly is the perfect type of space and the perfect size of space to house urgent care services that we think will be really convenient for people in Helena.
And when we come back, as promised, Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grevenitz will tell us what the weekend will look like weather-wise. And later, the investigation into Wednesday's violent attack on the Capitol is ramping up. We have the details.
Storm Tracker weather starts now with Chief Meteorologist Curtis Grevenitz.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Good Friday afternoon to you all. Who else is happy? It's Friday. And what a pretty day it has become in some parts of the state, and it's also become real cloudy in other parts of the state. We've got a few areas of low clouds and fog. You're looking at the Highwood Mountains. You can see a little in the way of some fog right there as well up on the mountaintops there. 33 degrees in Great Falls, light east wind at 7 miles per hour. And in Helena, can kind of almost see still a little in the way of some of that fog that was banked up against the South Hills there. 30 degrees right now. Again, we had some wet roads out there. Refreezing certainly going to be an issue here tonight, and more fog developing out there tonight. Places like the Helena Valley out the High Line here as well. Bozeman, 28 degrees, and we've got dense fog there and dense fog advisory. On the radar, really nothing going on. A little in the way of some snow far southeastern Montana. Here comes more snow, right? Well, no, a lot of this ducking right down underneath the state of Montana, moving through Idaho, Nevada into Utah. So if anybody is traveling this evening down over Monida Pass, you will run into a bit of that snow. Here's the big picture. A little snow into the eastern part of the country, the Appalachians, Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, picking up a little snow here. So a few minor systems working their way across the country. Let's look long range, shall we? There's that system ducking south of Montana for tonight into tomorrow. And this looks like a lot of cloud cover. That's really the low clouds and the fog that will redevelop here. But through the day tomorrow, besides a couple of spots out the High Line, I think a lot of the state looking at a lot of sunshine here for Saturday. Just watch that morning fog and the icy conditions in the morning hours. Sunday, a decent day, partly cloudy skies, just a few high thin cirrus clouds going overhead. The wind will pick up off the Rocky Mountain fronts. And then into next week, look at all that moisture again on the other side of the Continental Divide. We'll likely have a front coming through here on Wednesday. A couple of mixed rain and snow showers, mainly looking at a lot of wind with this front coming through on Wednesday. Thursday's quiet, and then another front coming through here on Friday. Yeah, some green there on the map indicating rain. So it will again be another mild Pacific system. A little snow, mainly in the mountains over the course of early next week. You can see the Continental Divide, and west of there is where we're seeing most of the snow. Maybe a little Wednesday out across north central Montana. Could see a little light accumulation of some snow. Here's the forecast for tonight. Teens to about 20. It's a chilly night, and again, we have a lot of low-level moisture still lingering out there, so there will be fog up here along the Milk River, down into the central part of the state here as well, and around the Helena area. Watch out for, again, some dense fog and some refreezing here, so the roads will be a little slick like they were this morning. Tomorrow, though, areas of fog in the morning, burning off through the late morning into the afternoon, mostly sunny skies. Not the warmest day we've ever seen. Temperatures actually close to to average for a change here around the state, if not a couple of degrees above average. And around Helena, pretty nice day once that fog burns off. Here's the 7-day forecast for the capital city. Upper 30s to about 40 degrees this weekend, a decent amount of sunshine, not a lot of wind, pretty nice out there. It gets warmer and windier on Tuesday, all the way up to 52. Some mixed rain and snow showers on Wednesday. Then again, a couple of rain showers possible on Friday. And I mentioned before, a countdown to cold. It does look like the second half of January will be a little closer to average as far as temperatures go, and more consistent snow likely to be falling in the mountains.
Thanks for that, Curtis. The investigation into the riots at the Capitol is intensifying, and so is the roundup of suspects. One of the men seen as the face of the attack was arrested this afternoon. NBC's Jay Gray has the details and the latest on the fallout from Washington.
There is an unsettling silence here. Flags at half-staff to honor Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick, who died as a result of injuries suffered during the violent siege of the Capitol. We now know, days before the attack, his department turned down offers of outside support from the Pentagon, Justice Department, and Department of Homeland Security.
We had so much internet traffic from a variety of groups that were going to engage in activities. So we had the president himself going on the internet saying this is going to be wild and this should have been prepared for in a much more robust fashion.
The chief of the USCP has announced his resignation. The House and Senate sergeants at arms have already stepped down as police and federal agents step up their investigation and search for those responsible. One of the faces of the mob, Richard Barnett, the man pictured with his feet up on the desk of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, is now in custody. Dozens have been arrested, at least 55 facing federal charges, including rioting, unlawful entry, assaulting police, theft, and weapons cases. One suspect arrested with a semi-automatic rifle and 11 Molotov cocktails. The FBI is searching for those responsible for leaving pipe bombs near the Capitol. They also want to know if any sensitive national security information may have been stolen from congressional offices, as officers and soldiers remain on guard around the clock here. Jay Gray, NBC News, Washington.
All right, and coming up next on the News at 5, we'll have a preview of tonight's wrestling matchups.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching MTN News at 5.
Welcome back to the News at 5. Normally, by this time of year, early January, high school wrestlers are halfway through their seasons and maneuvering for the postseason. But since COVID-19 pushed everything back, teams are just beginning their seasons this week. MTN's Tom Wiley has more on the first taste of action here in Great Falls.
The two AA wrestling programs in Great Falls open their season Friday night with a pair of duels against Belgrade and Billings Senior. Now obviously social distancing while wrestling is impossible, so the MHSA has established guidelines to limit the numbers of matches and potential exposure. Both teams though are so thrilled to compete you won't find any complaints.
Well, we're still planning on JV's wrestling matches too, so that part is going to be good. I think it's the way it's scheduled now is you can have 2 matches a day. So again, getting matches and trying to limit our exposure. So we're trying to do 2 things at once, and hopefully that we can do that and be able to have a state.
Kids were excited. They were happy to be back. It's good for them. So yeah, very fortunate that we're getting the opportunity to be in here. So we're just going to take it day by day because we know it can get shut down.
We'll have highlights from both wrestling duels featuring Great Falls High and CMR. Plus, your first virtual swim meet of the season underway in Great Falls at the pool. All that and more in Sports at 10. Reporting from Great Falls, Tom Wiley, MTN Sports.
Great Falls High Wrestling was ranked #1 in the Class AA preseason coaches poll that was released this morning. And up next, we will wrap things up here on the News at 5, but first, here's a look at what's coming up tonight on NBC Nightly News.
When we welcome our West Coast viewers, late details about the growing impeachment effort against President Trump as video emerges of the showdown and shooting at the Capitol that left a rioter dead. Also trying to unravel the confusion over who qualifies for the COVID vaccines when we see you back here for NBC Nightly News.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching MTN News at 5.
Welcome back to the News at 5, and to close things out, I know this looks like Montana, but it is not. It is a partly frozen lake in Switzerland that is producing hypnotic singing sounds. A walk around Lake Davos is described as a mystical experience. Now, the sounds are produced by changing temperatures, and they captivate people within earshot. The surface of the small lake releases deep, loud sounds when the ice cracks, which seem like they come from outer space. The locals say the strange noises is a natural phenomenon, and they are temporary. All right, and that does it for the News at 5. We'll see you back here tonight at 6 with your latest local headlines. NBC Nightly News is up next.